Okay, so it is actually 4:03, so I'd like to call to order the January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners. And Kim, could you start us with the roll call, please? Here.
Here.
Okay, and we do not have Ellen with us today, but we do have a quorum. So we are going to go ahead and proceed with the consent calendar, which we've had a couple of days to look over. So these are some templates that we see pretty regularly, a couple of really small service contracts, non-reverting budget amendments, business report, all of that sort of thing. And I actually did have, before we vote on that, I don't know if Sean is here, I actually did have a question about A14. Oh, okay. Okay. Should I just ask you, or?
Why don't you go ahead and ask the question, and
Okay.
if we have staff here, Becky is
Sure.
here, answer it. If not, you could skip over that, do the rest of
Sure.
the agenda, and come back to that.
Okay.
He was called out back to Switchyard.
Yes, so A14 is the 2023 update to hourly use permit, park special use permit, Switchyard Park Pavilion rental agreement. And so there's a paragraph addressing drugs and alcoholic beverages, and then there's a paragraph addressing firearms. And so I understand per Indiana code, we can't prohibit people from having weapons in the parks. Although, just side note, on another item on the agenda, I thought it was interesting that we could prohibit people from having swords and paintball guns, but whatever. But I guess what I was curious about, it says if a person or organization who rents in a parks facility develops such a policy, it will be responsible for implementation and enforcement. So if someone rents the park, they can set their own kind of, or rents a space, their own policy about having weapons.
Actually stemmed from a few years back with our relationship with the BCT, and they had a rental group that came in and wanted to set their own, and we went to legal, and they said as a renter they would have that right to do so.
Okay.
So we have just been consistent in the language of that. So if a rental group came into the pavilion and wanted to set a separate, I believe they could.
Okay, all right, that's just what I wondered about. I mean, it seemed a little odd that I guess the renter would have so much power to do that, but I understand the state law is.
Right, and in
Yeah.
that example, BCT drafted their policy, it was run by legal, and it was approved, and then they proceeded with their event.
Okay,
We're trying to keep language consistent. So
Sure.
that's why it's been tweaked a little in that.
okay, no, that makes sense. Thanks,
Okay,
Becky.
Sure.
Okay, so then if we don't have any other comments or questions on the consent calendar, I think we can have a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Okay, and a roll call vote for all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Israel Herrera. Okay, motion's carried. And then we will move into our Section B, public hearings and appearances. And first up, we have Emily Book to present the Bravo Award.
Hi, everyone. Emily Boot, Community Relations Coordinator, and staff would like to recognize Meryl Hatlin with the January Bravo Award. So Meryl has been a longtime volunteer photographer with the Bloomington Community Farmers Market and a Fair of the Arts. Clarence and Sarah both said they use his photos regularly in the Farmers Market newsletter. We also source them for Facebook, Instagram. He does great work, better than probably anything we could do. So we really appreciate his efforts to help us with our marketing, promoting the farmers market. He and his wife also are often seen collecting produce at the farmers market. It's through an organization called Farms to Family, directs unused produce to food banks and shelters, really helping out the community that way. So we're so grateful for everything he has done for the department, and Clarence would like to note he always does his work with twinkling eyes and a whimsical smile. So thank you.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Okay, all right. And then for our Parks Partner Award, Julie Ramey will tell us about FX Church.
Good afternoon, Julie Ramey. I'm the Community Relations Manager for Parks and Recreation, and it is my honor to present today the Parks Partner Award. The Parks Partners Award is one that we present quarterly to an outstanding supporter of parks and recreation programs. And when I did a call for nominations from our staff, I was delighted to hear of Matthew Shockney and FX Church. So that's in typical fashion. They operate kind of under the radar at the Banneker Community Center. While they hold their church services there on Sundays, I learned that they are so much more than a renter. They not only, as members of their congregation, not only support Banneker programs as part of the annual block party, they come and grill food, they let Banneker Center visitors use their tables and chairs. They're a driving force behind the block party, as I mentioned, and most recently they donated more than $16,000 to the Banneker Community Center so we could put some much needed new flooring on the third floor. And the person to best speak to that is the Banneker Community Center Program Facility Coordinator, Kevin Terrell, and I'd like to invite him up to the podium to say a little bit more about Pastor Matthew Shockney and FX Church.
I just want to go ahead and talk about all the things that Matt does. Like Julie said, Banneker essentially would not be the place that it is today, would not be able to function nearly as well as it's functioning now without great tenants like Matt and all of his congregation that use us as a renter. They do so many things, as Julie mentioned, many of them. It's always fun to get that Sunday afternoon text from Matt telling me things that either went well or, hey, you got to do this, or things or whatever. But he's a tremendous partner for the community, a tremendous partner for the Banneker neighborhood, for all of the children and families that go there. And we're very much proud to have him as part of our group, and we hope he's there for years to come.
Okay, great.
Matt, I'd like to come up and receive your award, and there you go.
Thank you very much.
So and you're invited to say a few words.
I just want to say thank you. We came to Bloomington 13 years ago as a family to start a new congregation, and we've rented a few places, but the Bannekers landed as home. I grew up across the street from the community building, the fire department, and the park of our small town. It was the place where everyone was. And so for me to be able to rent the Banneker Community Center, to serve there, to be giving there, just reminds me of my roots and what we do. And so I'm incredibly grateful. Our church is grateful. We have a group of college students that come in every Sunday, clean the building from top to bottom, and make sure we clean again when we leave so it's ready for everyone all week long. It's great for those students to get that touch of what it means to not just be a part of the IU community, but the Bloomington community and serve. And so we're just really grateful and thankful. Our scriptures say that we should pray for the city where we're at and be a blessing to it. That's what Jeremiah told the people. Jesus said that we should be servants of all. And so that's what we try to do and fly under the radar. We don't ask for our banners to be flown or our name to be recognized at events. We just want to serve. And that's what our passion is, whether it's cleaning the streets, whether it's fixing things around the building that we are allowed and can fix, whether it's just helping out. That's our passion. And we are incredibly grateful to be able to do it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being such a good and watchful presence in the Banneker there on the weekends. So next up, we have some staff introductions. Tara Brook, come on up and introduce yourself, Community Events Specialist.
Hi, my name's Tara Brook, and I'm your new Community Events Specialist. I live in Olytic, and I have a long history of working in the community down there. I was the president of the Art Association for a couple of years, where I'd put on a lot of, we do monthly exhibits, and then I'd manage the art gallery down there. I also sat on the board of directors for Revitalization as their merchant director, and it was my goal to get my community to spend their time and money downtown. So a lot of those events that I would do were built from scratch. So it feels really good to be back in this role. So I have a son that's 14 and a daughter that's an adult, lives up here, so it's good to be back up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. And then we will hear from another community, well, this time community relations specialist, Ace Chestnut.
Hello, I'm Ace, and I'm a new graphic designer. Thank you for reading the the staff report that I sent you. And I want to just say I was raised in an all-IU family with only one Purdue fan, so I did know a lot about Bloomington as far as like good restaurants and like IU things, but now I'm really excited to live here and get to know more about the community. My coworkers have been extraordinarily welcoming to me, and that's really important. So as an artist, it's super fulfilling to be able to work with all kinds of different people, whether they be artists or not. And I'm really excited to make some beautiful things with you guys, and I hope that it can inspire everyone.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. Yep. Okay, and then into our section C. Typically at the January meeting, we have our election of board officers, but we don't, since we don't have Ellen here with us, she's had a family business to attend to. We want to wait on our vice president position, but go ahead and elect our president and secretary. So I guess we just need a motion to, if me as the president and Kim as the secretary.
Yeah, I move to put before the board for election Kathleen Mills as the president and Kim Clapp as the secretary for the park commissioners.
Okay, and a roll call vote of all those in favor?
Jim Whitlatch,
Aye.
Israel Herrera, Kathleen Mills.
Aye. All right, motion's carried. So then next up in C2, we will have a review of Resolution 2301 to appropriate the Parks Non-Reverting Fund from Paula.
Good afternoon, Board of Park Commissioners. Paula McDevitt, Administrator of the Department. This is another one of the beginning of the year tasks that we take care of at the January meeting. And as you recall, in December, I presented the full non-reverting budget that you approved. And so this is a resolution where I have pulled out by program area their budgeted expenses for the year. And by passing this resolution, that kicks off our year and allows the spending to occur. And as you know, many of the program areas operate out of our non-reverting budget, and staff maintain and manage those budgets, and those balances in that are part of your monthly board packet every month. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Paula? No, crickets, no questions.
I move that we approve Resolution 2301 to appropriate the parks non-reverting fund.
All right, and all those in favor, a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch,
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
All right, motion's carried. Thank you, Paula.
Staff thanks you as well.
And then next up is item C3, which is the review of appointments to the ERAC, Environmental Resources Advisory Council. Rebecca Swift.
Hello, Rebecca Swift, Natural Resources Coordinator. I'm here to recommend our 2023 ERAC appointments. Autumn Brunel, Kathy Meyer, and David Parkhurst are all returning ERAC members, and we have a new member, Kim Breakmeyer. Sorry, I will learn that by our first meeting. And I made sure that all of their applications are in the folder for you to review. And just a little background, again, Environmental Resources Advisory Council acts as an advisory board for the Bloomington Parks and Recreation Department and policy matters pertaining to operations of city natural areas and/or facilities. and it's made up of 9 voting members and 1 ex officio, and I did confirm that Dave Rollo will be the liaison for Common Council again this year. Happy to answer any questions.
Don't have any questions, just comment that the experience and expertise we always get from the people on this is really incredible. I mean, 30-plus years of experience, PhDs in, environmental studies and biology, and so. Yeah.
Sure.
How many are we appointing?
4 this year, yeah. And they do, they're 2-year terms, and so they have to reapply even if they're continuing members every 2 years.
Move that we appoint the members to the Environmental Resources Advisory Council as put before the commissioners.
Okay, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion's carried. Thank you,
Thank you.
Rebecca. Next up will be review of the naming of Banneker Community Center's backyard garden. Becky Higgins.
Good afternoon. Becky Higgins, Recreation Services Division Director. Staff recommends the approval of naming the Banneker Community Center's backyard garden to officially the Benjamin Banneker Urban Farm. The history behind this, as many of you know, Banneker Center has served as an Indiana summer food service program site for more than 17 years. When Banneker joined the MCCSC Corporation and Community Kitchen in providing sites where children out of school for summer could go for free and nutritious meals. The summer food service program at Banneker has evolved over the years into a low-cost camp that offers nature, education, programming, structured games, activities, clubs, and in addition to healthy meals. In 2020, Parks and Recreation received a grant from National Recreation and Park Association to help develop a nutrition hub at Banneker. And it was a trusted gathering place that provides access to affordable, healthy foods and essential nutrition support services and in the effort to reduce food insecurity, strengthening healthy food decision-making, and improving healthy outcomes. That was an $80,000 grant from NRPA that then got delayed because of COVID. So we finally got to implement the grant last year and started using it. We used funds for staffing, for supplies, for materials, and labor to develop a raised bed garden in the backyard of Banneker. That's the history of it. The backyard garden meets the qualifications to be called an urban farm, and thus the request to name the area as the Benjamin Banneker Urban Farm. The naming of such will allow Banneker to apply for funding through grants offered through the Indiana Department of Health and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it will also allow a USDA farm number to be assigned that then helps us be able to apply for that kind of funding. It is for that reason that we want to go ahead and actually name it the Benjamin Banneker Urban Farm. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Okay. Thanks for the explanation about the grant opportunities, and it seems to make a lot of sense.
That's really
If
the
it's just
purpose
a
of it.
name change, and,
Yep.
yeah. Okay. Any questions for Becky?
So regarding the naming, so the name would allow to apply for grants?
Being an urban farm, being designated as an urban farm allows you to apply for more grant opportunities through the USDA. It allows us to get a USDA number for Banneker, with the stipulation being that the size, it meets that size qualification with just, the requirement is 0.01 acres, and you can be called a farm, an urban farm. So we're well within that. We're bigger than that.
All right, I'll move that we approve the naming of the Banneker Community Center's backyard garden change to the Benjamin Banneker Urban Farm. And to meet the requirements of an urban farm, I move that that be approved by the commissioners.
Okay, and a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. And next up, Haskell Smith will tell us about the partnership agreement with Canopy Bloomington for Youth Tree Tender Program.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So, hello all, I hope you're all doing well. Staff recommends the approval of the partnership between Canopy Bloomington and the City of Bloomington to continue the program of youth tree tenders for tree work, including mulching, small tree pruning, watering, and other duties that both parties mutually agree on, not to exceed the amount of $14,500 coming from my $399 line. Some background on the tree tenders program. Last year was the first year we did it. It was 4 high school students. They put in a total of 191 hours, mostly doing root collar excavation, girdling root removal, mulching, tree training, pruning with help from a certified arborist. They were able to accomplish 150 trees, root crown excavation with new mulch added, and 200 trees were pruned.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Haskell about this?
That means all the, for high school students, no the high schools, but how were they selected?
I can't hear Israel.
So there were 4 students from high schools. How
Yes.
were they selected?
That's a very good question. I do not know. That was left kind of up to Canopy Bloomington and how they made their choices, unless Tim's got a better.
Yeah, I might be able to help there. I know we rely on Canopy Bloomington. They have a partnership with IU. They're sort of a split off 501c3 from IU. So they have connections through Sarah Mincy, who runs the Environmental Resource Institute at IU, to reach out to students and recruit students with appropriate background and who want to learn that into that program.
A frequent program, it could be more students involved.
Sure,
Instead
we
of-
would love to grow it if possible. Yeah, this is the second year for it. It was really successful the first year.
That's why the funding source was bumped up some to expand a 6 to 10 range rather than just 4.
Okay. Any other questions for Haskell or Tim?
All right, move to approve the partnership agreement with Canopy Bloomington for Youth Tree Tender Program.
All right. And a roll call vote, please.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay. Motion's carried. Then Haskell will stay with us on Zoom here to tell us about the contract with J.R. Ellington Tree Expert Company for tree removal.
This is my second service agreement here. The staff recommends approval of a service agreement with J.R. Ellington Tree Expert Company for removal of hazard trees, pruning, or hazard reduction. Pruning is needed for an amount not to exceed $18,000, coming again from my $399 line. In 2022, there were approximately 250 trees removed from the city of Bloomington. Several of these were hazard trees along property lines, right-of-ways, and in areas beyond the scope of what we could accomplish in-house. Having this service agreement in coordination with the other one allows me to still competitively bid these hazard removals.
Okay. It's always the season for tree removal. So, yeah.
Sure is.
Any questions or comments about this one?
Move we approve the contract with J.R. Ellington Tree Expert Company for tree removal services.
Okay. And a roll call vote?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay. Motion is carried. Thank you, Haskell.
Thank you, guys.
And next, on C7, Joanna Sparks will tell us about the contract with Ecologic for wetland monitoring at Switchyard Park.
All right, good afternoon, Joanna Sparks, Urban Green Space Manager, here to present a contract with Ecologic for year 3 of wetland monitoring at the Switchyard Park. As part of our permitting process with the Army Corps of Engineers and Indiana Department of Environmental Management, we are required to perform monitoring to ensure that we meet success criteria for the 1.07 acres of created wetland and 293 feet of linear feet of daylighted stream. And we are this, like I said, this will be year 3. And basically, we need experts to monitor water quality, test soils, and also to evaluate the plant populations, the natives with wetland indicator status versus non-natives, invasives, and I could go on and on. You guys know me, so I'll stop. But basically, this contract is for $9,422 for it encompasses the entire year of monitoring, and they Ecologic will supply us once again with an end-of-year report. So, fingers crossed. This is years 3.
So what does the report, do we have a report every year, or we just get one at the end of the 3rd year, or what's?
Annually, they supply us with a report basically outlining what the activities that they performed as far as the monitoring stations, as well as how we're doing with the success criteria. And as expected, the first year wasn't great. It was basically a 110% disturbed area, so there was an incredible non-native seed bank present and just a lot of weed pressure. And last year we improved quite a bit as far as native plant establishment and water quality. And one of the good aspects of the monitoring report is that it actually gets out there and says, hey, we've got an erosion issue here. This needs to be addressed. So we may not notice it because it's hiding down in that basin, and we go and do our monthly trash pickup, but we don't necessarily monitor unless we have an extraordinary storm event. Then we would, certainly get down there and check out the damage.
So who does, they monitor and we've got a problem, does park maintenance do that, or who takes care of trying to correct the problems that the report shows?
Okay, well, ideally, we would do it within the urban green space team, but if it's beyond our capabilities, we would hire a contractor. Yeah, somebody who is knowledgeable and more highly skilled in that area. And sometimes special pieces of equipment are required just to get in, because those sensitive areas. And while we have lots of equipment, we may not have exactly the right one to minimize our impact.
And it says a monitoring period of 3 to 5 years. If you get to 5 years of monitoring and the success criteria are not met, could it be extended beyond that, or?
Well, Kathleen, that is a good question. But I can't answer that. But
just have to see how it goes.
We'll just have to see. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Any other questions for Joanna? No? Okay.
Move we approve the contract with Ecologic LLC for wetland monitoring at Switchyard Park.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, roll call vote.
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion is carried, and then Joanna will also stay with us to tell us about the contract renewal with Green Dragon Lawn Care.
Okay, yes. Okay, so this, the first contract with Green Dragon Lawn Care is for year 3 of mowing and trimming services. In 2021, the Green Dragon Lawn Care Company submitted the winning bid for our mowing and trimming contract, and within that contract is language that allows us to mutually agree to renew that contract up to 3 years, and that this would be the 3rd year. So it is split into 2 parts, and the first part I'll present to you is for the 20 primary locations, which are basically, those are parks properties, and they're larger areas, and it is for a sum of $82,030 for the entire year. That's 26 mowing cycles, basically from April to the end of October. Depending on the weather, that may or may not be sufficient, and thankfully we have our small in-house seasonal mowing crew, so we still have some equipment. So if we run out of funding for the contractor, then we actually would get out there and do those last mows. But yeah, it's hard to tell. It may rain and rain and rain, and the grass continues to grow in August, or we may have a drought. So fingers crossed again.
Okay, yes, and as we like to point out with these, it often is just better cost-wise to hire this out than, yeah, it's a lot of mowing.
Yes,
Yeah.
and equipment maintenance is, purchasing is incredibly expensive, and then just the ongoing maintenance, because, yeah, it's really, the mowers take a lot of abuse.
Okay. All right, any questions? Okay.
Move that we approve the contract with Green Dragon Lawn Care, Inc. for primary park locations.
Okay, and a roll call vote of those in favor?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch,
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion's carried, and then those were primary park locations, and Joanna has another contract for alternate locations.
That's correct, yes, first, the same Green Dragon Lawn Care, once again, is the contractor for this mowing and trimming services for 16 alternate locations, which are public works properties that the Parks Department is responsible for maintaining. Just random little, like the 7th and Morden corner, there's a little bit of lawn there. Well, we're responsible for making sure that gets mown. There's just all kinds of random bits throughout the city that we take care of for public works. And this contract is for the amount of $34,970. And it shares the same specifications as the previous contract I described.
Move that we approve the contract renewal with Green Dragon Lawn Care for alternate locations. C9.
Okay, and a roll call vote, those who approve?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch, Israel Herrera.
Saying it's not on, or I can turn on the other one? Oh, yours was maybe, okay. Okay, motion's carried. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you. I'll be back. I'll be back in a bit to do a presentation.
Okay.
So thank you.
And then next in C10, Tim Street will tell us about policy 13210, multi-use trail design and operation.
Yes, good afternoon, Park Commissioners. Tim Street, Operations and Development Division Director for Bloomington Parks. I have two related items before you tonight, the first of which is the policy update for the multi-use trail operations. This is an item we reviewed before the end of last year that we had some questions on that I'm bringing back tonight for approval. You'll recall that in the latter half of last year, we were dealing with some questions related to trail closures and detours as surrounding the Johnson Creamery smokestack. And what our answer to that was to develop a policy around trail closures, how they are approved and how they are managed through collaboration with the city engineering department and then ultimately through approval before the Parks Board in certain situations. So the policy tonight is substantially the same as what was reviewed towards the end of last year with just a couple changes. We do retain the collaboration language with city engineering. When we do approve closures, we do want to have them mutually approved by the city engineer and by us, and when appropriate, according to the flow chart on there, by the Park Board as well. And having them approved by the Park Board additionally gives another chance for public comment on major closures, according to this flow chart. And as always, with any type of policy development updates, things like this, we try new things and we see how they work, and if we need to make tweaks and changes, of course, we will. So I've been working very closely with the city engineering department. In the meantime, we did not pass the policy at the end of the last year, so we did have a couple trail closure requests come in the meantime. I just put a picture up just to kind of show what we expect that these would look like when a detour is present. This was on the beeline for the calorie repair removal between 3rd and 4th Streets. We did purchase some of these bike and pedestrian detour signs to make sure we had appropriate signage. And this is when a detour is determined to be necessary, how we would basically expect that to look. The Duke Reliability Project is ongoing, and I'll talk more about that in a second. They did have a vegetation removal on the beeline as well that did not end up having a detour. That is something we are working through to correct with the engineering department. But tonight we want to bring this policy forward for official approval so that moving forward, including tonight, we'll be able to bring trail closures before the park board as per the policy. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and just as you highlighted a little bit, I think last time we were hung up on consult versus collaborate, but now it is collaborate.
I should clarify, both words are still present in there because there really are two parts of this policy. There's consultation when designing and building new trails. That might mean we hire a local engineering firm to work with us on the design of a new trail. And then the collaboration language is present when I'm, or a parks representative, working with the engineering department on trail closure requests, because we really lean on them and their expertise in this realm, and with things like the manual, the MUTCD, the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that they have a lot of familiarity with. I had to just remember what it stood for.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments for Tim?
Move that we approve policy 13210, multi-use trail design and operation policy.
Okay, and a roll call vote, those who approve?
Kathleen Mills.
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch.
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion's carried. And then Tim has a related trail closure for Duke Reliability Project.
Yeah, so as mentioned, we've been working with Duke on the reliability project. This is a project that has been approved conceptually for years and is just now sort of coming to fruition. This is connecting high voltage transmission lines between the substation across from Switchyard Park and the substation at 11th and Fairview. And so the park board approved an MOU for street trees that were lost as part of this effort. Duke's been negotiating with private owners, and this project is going. We did, in consultation with engineering, approve a request before this policy was official for trail closure. That was executed, I believe, last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. We did have a couple issues with that we're working out with Duke, and that there was a communication failure on their end where their subcontractor failed to put out signs as we agreed. So that is something I'm working with the city engineer on, and we've discussed with Duke that moving forward we need to ensure compliance with the MOT, which is maintenance of traffic plans that are submitted. So moving forward, we recommend approval of these closure requests. There are basically two potential requests here between now and June as this project progresses. One is the beeline between Rogers and Fairview, so north of City Hall right over here. As poles are installed over there, the trail will need to close for some days. We will get notice. We will be able to work with Julie's team to put notice out that will be coming, and there will be a detour for that section on up to 11th Street. The other section, Duke has submitted maintenance of traffic detour plans for in case they need them, which is sections of the beeline between Patterson up to Smith around the convention center. The plan is for those not to be needed. The plan is that the work will be done primarily from Morton to prioritize the trail and all of the traffic that uses the trail daily for alternative transportation. But in case they do get to a situation where they will need to close it, they will notify us. This plan is in place and is approved by us and by engineering already for them to use and sign an appropriate detour. And I know this was late developing. If there's any questions on the trail closure application form or the traffic plans that are included, I'm happy to answer those as best I can.
And as you referenced that the notice for people about the closure, that's on Duke to put the signs up, or?
Duke's contractor or subcontractor would put the signs up, but we've asked them for 72 hours notice of when it would actually occur, so that we can put out notice via our social media or other avenues that we can use to communicate that will be upcoming.
Okay. All right.
For how long? So the project itself is going to be from now until June, and so similar to a right-of-way permit, we can permit something now that says, yes, we recognize you're going to need to do this, and then they contact us with the appropriate amount of days. So we know 11th and Fairview, between 11th and Fairview will need to be closed. The plan is for that to be closed during some days when they need it, and then reopened at the end of the workday. So it is open during the morning and evening hours somewhat. We don't have an exact total number of days, but we will stay in close communication with Duke on that to monitor that.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Move to approve the trail closures for Duke Reliability Project.
Okay, and a roll call vote of all those who are in favor?
Kathleen Mills,
Aye.
Jim Whitlatch,
Aye.
Israel Herrera.
Okay, motion's carried. Thank you, Tim. And then we move into our Section D reports. And first up, Mark Sterner from the Sports Division to talk about the ever-popular pickleball.
Good afternoon, Mark Sterner, General Manager of the Twin Lakes Recreation Center. Today, we're bringing forth the BPC, Bloomington Pickleball Club. They formed themselves into a group in October of 2022. They have a lot to say today, so I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'll let them talk about their mission. I think the interesting thing is we came into the meeting and they had 61 members or 60 plus members associated with the group, and the update today is now 81. So the group grows, it's growing rapidly. So to no further ado, I would like to introduce Dan Sessions and Brandon Snyder.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Sessions. I'm chairman of the board of the Bloomington Pickleball Club. Park Commissioners, Madam Secretary, and staff, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and meet with you. As Mark said, we began this process in October to see how we could, as an entity, organize ourselves to have one voice for the sport of pickleball. It's been an awesome opportunity, and really our mission is to just promote the growth of Bloomington pickleball, Bloomington, Indiana pickleball, and to enhance both competitive and recreational play here in the city. And it's been, like Mark mentioned, an interesting experience as you see the vast majority of people that can play come from different backgrounds, different paddle sports backgrounds or no paddle sport backgrounds alike. I like to refer to the sport as the great equalizer because all ages, genders can play together and have a lot of fun. With me today is our elected president, Brandon Snyder, who I'd like to introduce and to share a little bit more about what we've been doing.
Good evening. As the president of the club, I just kind of want to give you guys some a little bit of some statistics that we've taken. We've been in close relationships with both Keto and Mark, and we've heard that numbers are a good thing here. So about 68 days ago, we heard that Park Ridge East was having some pickleball upgrades done to it, and they were wanting to get some data from that. So we approached Keto and we asked for some if we could also gather some data on some other places that we play pickleball, just to have those numbers and kind of host them for you guys tonight. So over a period of 68 days, we put up a QR code at both Switchyard Park, the YMCA, both YMCA's and RCA Park, as well as TLRC. The TLRC, I believe Keto has the information on that, but just within 68 days, we had about 617 responses of players that checked in to play pickleball. About 94.7 of those players are non-IU associated. We were asked to get some IU and non-IU affiliated data for Keto specifically. So about 94%, well, about 5% of those, 5.6% were IU students. 300 of those 617 players were at RCA Park, so the majority of the play is happening at RCA Park. So that's pretty interesting. Only about 6.6% is coming from Switchyard, and then just given, due to the nature of the time of the year and the indoor facility options, TLRC gained about the other 39.9% of the players. So pickleball is definitely taking off. As Mark has mentioned, we officially launched on January 9th as a club, and within 16 days, we've had 81 paid memberships join the club. So Really, our goal, like Dan said, is to work closely, hopefully with Parks and Rec Department, grow pickleball, and hopefully gain some traction on improving some of our facilities that we have for pickleball, and also potentially maybe entering a partnership agreement or something of that nature down the line. So our goal here tonight was to basically introduce ourselves to the board officially and answer any questions that you guys have for us at this time. Again, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So you said that was 670?
617.
That's players, not games, or?
That is individual players that check in for using the QR code, so 617 total in 68 days.
Okay, so basically people are quitting their jobs to play pickleball. Is that where it's at?
I mean,
I know it's popular.
yes, it is very popular.
If I may mention, at 4 o'clock, right when we started this meeting today, I was made aware that every single court was full over at RCA just this afternoon with the beautiful weather. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to find the opportunity to play, especially when the weather turns nice.
Okay.
We have in the package 40 active members, but you're saying that there are around 81?
There's 81 active members as of today.
And the demographics again, people from the community and also students from IU?
Yeah, anybody that would like to join the club is welcome to join the club. We have octogenarians and teenagers alike, right? So it's the broad span of people that play pickleball and join the club.
Okay. Well, thank you for the information. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. All right, and then also under our Section D reports, we have D3 Operations Division Urban Green Space report from Joanna.
Hey, yep. Joanna Sparks, Urban Green Space Manager, here to actually talk about you more specifically about the urban green space area today. And Kim is going to bring up a PowerPoint, but I'm going to give you a little background before we get started. You may think, isn't Joanna the city landscaper? Well, yes, I am, but over the last 5 years or so, the areas of responsibility for the landscaping unit of the Parks Department Operations Division has just exploded. We've taken on the vegetation management, which is basically, that's the invasive management that I'm normally here haranguing you to support me about. So we have not only the over 3 acres of formal landscaping that we maintain throughout the city, almost half of which is at Switchard Park. That was a new addition over the last 5 years, as well as the addition of the vegetation management area, which when it came over, sort of got incorporated into the landscaping area. There's also a volunteer aspect to that, including the Adopt an Acre program, which we have changed the name to Adopt a Green Space, because it's not an acre. It doesn't matter what size it is, and the spaces do vary. It was, when that program began, it was very focused on Griffey Lake Nature Preserve, and there actually were acres measured out for volunteers. But now, basically, I'm going to talk to you about our the outreach aspect of our Urban Green Space program, which I'm very excited, and I'll just tell you before I even get started, I'm super proud of the members of the Urban Green Space team, and just I think you're going to be impressed by what we all accomplished with the community this year. So here goes, and bear with me. I'm embarrassed to say this is, thank you, Kim. This is the first time I've given a report in my tenure here, so kind of exciting. So as I mentioned, we not only are we responsible for the formal landscaping in the city, but we're also responsible for the woodland areas, the edges, the areas that we're slowly taking out of the mowing cycle and planting trees, the restoration zones, all that falls into the urban green space area of responsibility, and it is a lot to manage. So we basically need volunteers. We really need volunteers. So in 2022, we had volunteer help on 26 of our properties, and I'll give you more information on the specifics a future slide, but we were able to host 178 events, most of which were weed wrangles. Just those are an hour to 3 hours of invasive plant removal and just educational opportunities for folks. And we really are targeting certain properties where we have a lot of community interest, and we're hoping that we can draw the community to our events and selfishly get them to go home and remove the invasives on their properties so that we have less propagules coming into our parks properties and thus healthier ecosystems. But anyway, this is by no means a complete rundown of our volunteer base, but certainly the Adopted Green Space program, our parks partner, Monroe County Identify and Reduce Invasive Species, also known as MC IRIS. There are members, our regular attendees at our weed wrangles and tree plantings and just fun days. But we have lots of individuals, community members, and I'm going to show you a slide with all of our different groups. But one of our, can we go back 1 second? Yeah, a fun way we sort of ended the season this year was we had a volunteer planting at Ferguson Dog Park. And that was just really remarkable that we could plant 461 little native trees and shrubs in a couple hours. Just go team! It's amazing what a lot of people together can accomplish. So anyway, we're very excited about how those take hold and seeing them grow next year. So, okay, but just quickly, there's a list of the properties that we focused our efforts on this year, and there's a little caption there. There's a volunteer planting acorns at Winslow Sports Complex earlier this fall, and we, part of the procedure with invasive management and just ecosystem restoration is the first we've got to get the invasives out of there. We've got to make space because they're taking up space and crowding out natives. So we have a fun experiment going with Bloomington High School South, some students there on some acorn plantings. They actually, I'll give you a little tangent. This is a fun project. They actually planted acorns and mapped where they were, and they're gonna check and see how they do, but they also had these areas where they just dumped out 5-gallon buckets of acorns, which were donated by another one of our volunteers, donated us a copious amount of different acorns this year. So anyway, I'll be back to you next year. Next few years, we'll stay tuned on the acorn success at Winslow Sports Complex. But that's a fun thing. Not killing things all the time. We're actually planting some things. So, okay. All right, Kim. Okay, so in our Adopted Green Space program, there's speaking of Winslow Sports Complex, we have a really active group down there. They're a lot of fun, but we have, Kim, I need the number. I think it's 29. Anyway, we have 42 participants in our Adopted Green Space program this year, and we already have, I think, 4 new folks who have filled out the paperwork to join the program for this year, so that's really exciting. But I believe we have 21 Adopted Green Space properties. Can you just move the little, I'm sorry, Kim. No, you're fine. Yes, 21 Adopted Green Space properties, and those are different parks and whatnot, close to people's houses, places that people think are special, and that is why they want to help us manage invasives there. But anyway, of the 3,138 volunteer hours we accomplished this year, over half were our Adopted Green Spacers. So that program is just really critical to us getting our work done. And just a shout out, 5 of our Adopt a Green Space volunteers have received a Bravo Award for their efforts, and we also have shared volunteers with the Adopt a Stream, Adopt a Trail, and Park Ambassador program. So yeah, we're trying to cross-pollinate and draw in everybody. And this is just a slide with different things. We don't need to stay on that long, Kim, but just that's an overview of who we are. But here's the top 5 properties we worked at this year with volunteers. And again, this is based on community interest. Is Lower Cascades Park and Winslow Sports Complex, Bryan Park, Latimer Woods, and Winslow Woods Park. So those are areas where we have folks who are, they're interested in that particular property and they're willing to come every week and help us. And you can see there we had some volunteers from IU Ballroom Dance Group. They were a lot of fun, and the MC Iris, as well as more high school volunteers. Okay, and yep, just tooting our horn again. We hosted 178 events. There's the group at Winslow in June, and that's just those are the number of events for property. So, just once again, you can see some places we only had one, but as a part of the Adopt a Green Space program, the volunteers are required to host a weed wrangle, at least one time in the year. They've got to bring in their own volunteers, and of course we're there to help them. So, right. So and then again, here are the 5 properties with the most volunteer hours, which those are coming pretty much from the Adopt a Green Space program. But you can see Griffey, we have really active folks at Griffey Lake. Lots of retired people. I'm looking forward to it. But Winslow Sports is the same scenario. And just we have our regulars, and it's really a lot of fun. We sort of build a little invasive weed wrangle community. It's a lot of fun. But there's Jillian Field up there at the top. She's our Urban Green Space Outreach Coordinator, and she is the point person for the event planning and outreach. And and as you can see the results, she's just doing a fantastic job. And Jolie, Emily, and I, we're a support team. Anyway, it's fun because you never know who's going to be there. It's really the volunteer events. I look forward to them, not just because it means I get out of the office and away from the dreadful computer time, but it's just folks are fun.
Joanna, I just talked to a South student today about weed wrangle, and I said something about you're wrangling weeds in January, and she looked really offended, and she was like, "This is a year-round project."
Yes.
I was like, okay, yeah.
The message is.
Yes, so they're definitely getting the message, yeah.
Okay, that's great, Kathleen. Thank you. And then again, more numbers. Here you go. Yes. So okay, that's we don't need to stay on that one long, but okay, yes, and here we go. Here is the big dramatic fun fact. Those the federal volunteer per hour rate this year of $29.95 times the 3,138 volunteer hours we had equates to a worth of almost $94,000 in volunteer invasive plant management. I think that is just absolutely incredible. I mean, that is that's like 3 extra full-time staff positions. It's really, really phenomenal. And like I said, we already have new folks who want to sign up for the program for 2023. It's just, it's really exciting because I feel hopeful, and this is not an area where we feel hopeful very often. It's like the invasives, that pressure is constantly there, and it's hard to keep up, let alone get ahead. So this is, having active community engagement on the Bloomington Parks properties in the natural areas is just, it's tremendous. So then our next slide will should give you these are our, just some of the partners we work with this year. Like I said, we just never know who's going to be there, and it's just, always a joy getting to meet all these people and hear about why they care. We share why we care, and they tell us, why they, what's important to them. So it's helpful. Okay, and then here we go. Special thanks Julie Ramey. Emily's gone, but yes, thank you so much. And I just a shout out to our Park Ridge East Park adopter Nancy Anderson, as well as the Park Ridge East Neighborhood Association. They applied for a hand grant, and if you haven't seen the pollinator garden at Park Ridge East Park, anytime between June and September. I really encourage you to get out this year. It's an incredible space. It's 100% native, and geekily enough, all the plants that are there are like native to this area of Monroe County. Charles Deem documented their presence about 100 years ago. So anyway, it's super fun, and it's full of pollinators, and it's great to see the kids running around in it, and just there's a huge example of community engagement, because it's a pretty big project, and they maintain it with a little bit of help from us. So anyway, thank you very much for letting me.
A lot of great information. Yes, and thanks to all the volunteers as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. So that closes out our report section, and then the final section on the agenda is E, public comment. So if we have anyone who would like to make a public comment, you can come up to the podium, please, and tell us your name. And I believe we have about 2 minutes for public comment for each person.
Hello. I'm Eric Shedler. I've met two of you. I haven't met Commissioner Whitlatch before. I am the owner of Muddy Fork Bakery and a former vendor at the Bloomington Community Farmers Market from 2010 to 2020. I left the market in 2020. Prior to that, we'd been working for about 2 years with staff and with Parks Board and the Advisory Council to restructure the fees for prepared food vendors, which are now called food and beverage artisans. Where we last left this issue 3 years ago, I believe, the Parks Board approved update to the mission statement to include food and beverage artisans, approved adding representation to the Advisory Council, and rejected the 10% of sales fee that had been in place for food and beverage artisans. I don't remember the details of how that got assigned at a lower percentage at that time. Now we're at 6.5%. And I'm just here to remind you and ask you to reconsider again going into next season that the stakeholders, the vendors, the Advisory Council, and I believe even the staff and Parks Board has agreed that a restructuring needs to happen and that the old system was unfair. And I'd like to urge you to speed it up. Even the 6.5% fee where you are setting things for next year represents a number that for some vendors could be far out of proportion to the expense that we cost the market to operate. I paid $12,000 to $14,000 a year to vend at the market. The last 3 years that I was there, that could still be $7,000 to $8,000 under the current fee structure, which is far more than it would cost the market for me to be there. I'm asking you to reconsider for 5% for this year, which is a number that the Farmers Market Advisory Council encouraged and recommended 3 years ago. I would, okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Good afternoon. I'm Rob Fishman, Bloomington resident for 31 years. The last time I was here before the Parks Board was at that January 2023 meeting. No, now is January 2023. The last time I was here was for that 2020 meeting on the same issue about the fee structure for the food and beverage vendors. And it is frustrating for someone who longs for a reconsolidation of a single community farmers market that what was, it seemed to me, an interim compromise solution that brought together all the stakeholders was never implemented, and here we are 3 years later for some good reasons. You know, big things happened the past 3 years, but it does seem like, it's very difficult, I think, for people to come to compromises on an interim solution. When the interim solution then becomes elusive, well, then when will the final solution become legitimate in terms of equity between food and beverage vendors and making it affordable to bring them back to the community farmers market? So I don't have a particular prescription. I think implementing a 5% fee as on an interim basis, which was the idea in 2020, with the notion that the Parks Department will work for something more equitable and more in line with what happens in our neighboring communities around the Midwest, is a good way to go. But I do think the 6.5 fee is just out of bounds for and moving backwards from where we were 3 years ago. Thanks very much for your time today and your service on the board.
Thank you for your comment. Is this two commenters or one?
Just one comment. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Beyer. My husband and I own a vegetable farm here in Monroe County, and we've been vendors at the Bloomington Community Farmers Market off and on for almost a decade. And we're here today or I'm here today to express support for the food and beverage artisans' request for the fee adjustment down to 5%. And I wanted to share a little story. Back when my husband and I got together and decided to start a farm, my husband actually had another business that was already selling at the farmer's market. And at that time, there was a rule that you couldn't have interest in 2 contracts and vend with 2 businesses at market. And so we met with Marcia Veldman, the market master at the time, and told her our situation. And she listened to us and asked questions and asked for some time to come back, do some research, consult with the advisory committee. And a few weeks later, we heard from her, and she proposed this innovative farm arrangements thing that would enable us to do what we wanted to do and still meet the rules and operate within the spirit and intention of the market. And the thing that was really powerful to me about that was that she listened to us, and we told her we had a problem, and she helped us find a solution. And I know the farmers market staff and city have had a lot of difficult things to deal with related to the farmers market in recent years. But I feel like this is a really pivotal rebuilding time and moment, and now is the time more than ever that we need to listen to the needs of the vendors and the community and find creative solutions to problems that vendors have. And this is a thing that the food and beverage artisans have been really patient about. It's a need that they have. What are some creative ways that we could make up that difference, the 1.5%? How much money are we talking about? How much more would my fees as a farm vendor have to increase? Could we fundraise, et cetera? There must be some creative ways. And personally, I really hope that everybody can come together to compromise. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comment.
My name is Oscar Kencher, and I've come here to give the perspective of a customer who does not sell anything whatsoever at the farmer's market, but who has been going to the farmer's market, well, who used to go to the farmer's market very regularly before the pandemic. I would go every week, but one of the main reasons that would get me there was because I had to get the granola and the bread and other items that were being sold by Muddy Fork. But once I got there, I would go to a lot of other vendors and get farm produce and various things. My point is, from the perspective of a customer, it seems to me that being able to bring Muddy Fork back to the city market doesn't just benefit the vendors who are being subjected to a higher rate, but it also benefits the various other farmers because of the people who come there. When I used to go to the market in the old days, the biggest crowd was always around the Muddy Fork tent, and those people weren't going to just stay there and get things only from Muddy Fork. So, it seems to me that there is a larger perspective that benefits a whole bunch of vendors in the market, and their concerns, I think, are worth considering. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
I'm Judy Klein. I'm a very long time member of the community and also a customer at the farmers market. And I too thank you for opening the discussion to this issue. I think from my understanding it is on a historical basis that this differential between the farmers and the artisans' pay structure is in existence. But it seems very important to me to revisit it and revise it and create more equity. I want to add to what Oz was saying about how much the prepared food vendors bring to the market. They bring an element of joy and also customers that then use the rest of the market, and I think it's very important to listen to their needs. I was very impressed with the research that Eric did, in which he looked at all the farmers markets in the Midwest surrounding us, and I think our situation is quite anomalous, and I urge you to consider at least this year going to the 5% fee schedule, as that has been a long-stated goal. And I also hope that going forward, more progress can be made in devising an equitable fee schedule for all the vendors at the market. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Are there any other public comments this evening? Yes, okay. Yeah.
And I'd like to apologize to Cynthia Bretham, who emailed me that she was having difficulty getting into the meeting, but she sent along her public comment, so I'd like to enter that into the record. And this is from Cynthia Bretham. Since I was not admitted to today's Park Commission Zoom meeting, here is my public comment for the appropriate time at the end of the meeting. Please consider reviewing the budget so that the percentage of vendor sales can be reduced to 5% from its current 6.5%. Local product vendors and farmers at the market deserve the utmost support in providing the community benefit of the city farmers market and also the opportunities their businesses provide part-time and full-time local workers. Thank you. To your health, Cynthia Bretham.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone who took the time to come and comment, and also people who sent emails. I mean, we do read all of the emails and take into consideration all of the comments that people made. So, yes.
Kathleen, we do have someone with a raised hand.
Oh, sure, on the Zoom, okay.
Wendy, if you would unmute yourself, you should have that capability.
Okay, have I done it? Okay. Oh, I can't do video. That's all right. Okay. I am a big fan of the farmers market. I miss the downtown lively communal event that it used to be before the prepared food vendors weren't able to afford to come. They attracted me and so many other people and helped create the kind of celebratory community event that the Saturday market was. And I would love to see it get revived and reunited by making it more accessible to the prepared food vendors so that they can actually afford to come. And I would often come late, especially because of the yummy foods that I could eat around my brunch time. I'm a very late sleeper often, and so I would get there and I would have something to munch, and I would also get all kinds of wonderful things at the end as people were finishing up their sales. Sometimes I'd even get a slightly better rate because people were happy to get rid of things. So I highly encourage you to make it more affordable for our prepared food vendors so that we can have a livelier, fun, communal farmers market again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other raised hands or comments?
If If anyone else would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. We'll give you another couple seconds. No, that's it.
Okay. All right, then that takes us back to Paula.
Thank you, Board, for the first meeting of the year, and thank you to the reports and for the public comment. I'd just like to make an introduction. We have in the audience David Skirvin, who is the president of the Bloomington Parks Foundation this year, for the next 2 years. He'll raise his hand. And David has expressed an interest in coming to our meetings so that he can report back to the Park Foundation and just be in tune for what we're doing. And I have encouraged him at some point this year.
Charles L.
I've also invited David this year to come and give an annual report or report on the Parks Foundation. So I'd like to welcome David and thank him for coming this evening. And our next Board of Park Commissioners meeting is February 28th. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. And again, yeah, thanks to all the staff and members of the public who came today. And with that, we'll adjourn our January meeting of the Bloomington Board of Park Commissioners.